Now, I think, for instance, OnStar, I think it's fantastic technology.
Yeah.
Fantastic technology. The things that OnStar does and the protection that OnStar has provided for millions of Americans, great. I'm not really comfortable with that technology in my car with a government owning GM. Sorry.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not. I'm only afraid of. I'm only afraid of technology when it's in the hands of evil people. And I see the growth of evil people in our government.
I actually don't think that's true with you. I think your issue is more of government, whether it be evil or good, because the bottom line is you never know what the government's going to be, and they have power to do whatever they want.
Yeah, people will always go bad. The founders believe that. When you give power and money to people, they'll always go off the rails. They always will. Not everybody, but on the whole. So you handcuff them and you make sure that these kinds of things don't keep growing and growing and growing. And that's what's happening. They're not stopping the growth of government and the merging of technology and information with the government. If anything, they're growing it. Google? No, you know what? Google, no thank you. I don't want any more technology from you. Thank you very much. No thank you. You know, if you look at, read The Age of Spiritual Machines by Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil is an amazing futurist. Works for Google, works for Apple. It took us about 8 years to get an interview with him and did an hour with him over at CNN. He's an amazing guy. Read The Age of Spiritual Machines. Frightening. I think he wrote it in 1995. And what he says is there's going to come a time when you don't have to worry about grandma dying because grandma will be able to download herself into a computer, and so it'll always be like grandma's there. He says by 2050, you're going to have lawyers representing computers because computers will claim to be life forms. If you read the new book, what is it, Into the Plex? What is that book by about Google? And it's pro-Google. If you read it and you know the things like what Ray Kurzweil talks about, which is coming in technology, you see the beginning of the merging of machines and man. You see, it's not good. Google is working on artificial intelligence. No, thank you. No, thank you. Get away from the government, reduce the size of government, maybe, but not with giant government. No, thank you. No, thank you. At the age of 5, Ray Kurzweil declared himself an inventor. By 17, he was on I Got a Secret with a computer that he had made that now composed its own original music. In the 1980s, he built an electric piano for Stevie Wonder and founded the Kurzweil Music System. Now, he's working with a co-founder of Google to help solve the world's energy crisis through solar power. Author, inventor, entrepreneur, the man Bill Gates calls a visionary thinker, a man I have been trying to speak to for over 10 years. Ray Kurzweil is here, and he's about to change the way you think about our future forever. Join me for an incredible hour next. I have to tell you, America, I am thrilled. I have been waiting to talk to this guy for a very, very long time. You are in for an amazing hour. We're going to spend an hour with a guy Bill Gates calls a visionary thinker and futurist. He has 16 honorary doctorates. Me too. He's been inducted into the Inventors Hall of Fame. Inventor, entrepreneur, author of The Singularity is Near, and many others. Ray Kurzweil. Right. What an real honor. I read your book, Age of Spiritual Machines. I don't even know how many years ago that came out.
It's a decade now, yeah.
Mind-boggling. I read that. It is some of the most frightening and yet hopeful stuff I've ever read.
It's been tracking very accurately, actually. I've looked at it recently. And
really?
a book I wrote in the 1980s, The Age of Intelligent Machines, that's been tracking quite accurately. That had predictions like the emergence of the World Wide Web coming in the mid-1990s, which seemed ridiculous in the 80s, but came...
You're a guy who, you know, people like Bill Gates would call up and say, hey, Ray, we're making this machine. Can you tell me about the future of this kind of machine? Are we headed in the right direction? Is that the way people use you?
That's one of my roles, is as a futurist.
Right.
There's certain things, actually, we can track very accurately, which is if you can measure the information content, like the cost performance of computing, the number of nodes on the internet, the number of bytes of brain data we're downloading, the cost of sequencing a base pair of DNA. Those things track very accurate exponential regressions, and I've been making accurate predictions about those kinds of things.
So we have a ton to talk about. I want to talk to you about energy, the future of energy. I want to talk to you about global warming. I want to talk to you about health. I mean, you believe that you're going to live forever.
Well, I'm working on it.
You're working on it.
So far,
but that's not like a joke.
So far, so good. But yes, I do have a plan.
Okay.
And it's not an absolute guarantee, but yes, we can stay healthy long enough until we have technology that will get us to the next stage, and so on.
I mean, America, wait until you hear. I mean, you'll believe it from this guy. All right, well, let me start with this. You say that we have 32 times more technical advancement, if you will, coming in the next, what, 40, 50 years?
Half century,
In the next half century, than we've had since 1900.
Right. Well, we're doubling what I call the paradigm shift rate, the rate of technical progress every decade. So the next 50 years, we'll see 32 times more progress than we've seen in the last century.
So where does that put us? What is life like at that point?
50 years from now, life is quite different. We'll be spending most of our time in virtual reality. We'll be enhancing our brains by merging with our technology. We'll be able to back up our mind file. People will think it actually pretty amazing that we went through the day without backing up the information in our brains. Just like we think it's crazy today to not back up.
How do you mean? I mean, so I don't know.
You have information up there,
right? Well, and some of us not so much.
And you know, we think it's pretty irresponsible not to back up your personal computer.
Sure.
Yeah, we don't back this information up.
So, are you talking about? I mean, I hate to ask Ray Kurzweil this question, but do you go to the movies?
On occasion.
On occasion, yeah. Okay. All right. This is I didn't see this movie about. The Matrix. They tell me that in the Matrix they put it. What was it? They put a chip, or they, put a cord in the back of your head, and you could upload all of this information.
Well, we're going to be able to send nanobots, blood cell-sized devices, inside our bloodstream. They'll keep us healthy from inside, and they'll go inside our brains through the capillaries, and they'll interact with our biological neurons. And if that sounds very futuristic, there are already people that have computers in their brains. For example, Parkinson's patients have a pea-sized computer in their brain that replaces the biological neurons that are destroyed by that disease. The latest generation actually allows you to download new software to the neural implant inside your brain from outside the patient. That's today. And this kind of technology is doubling in power every year. It's shrinking in size by a factor of 100 per 3D volume per decade. So 25 years from now, these technologies will be 1 billion times more powerful, 100,000 times smaller. We'll be able to send these nanobots into our brain. They'll interact with our biological neurons, and they will extend our intelligence. We will be a hybrid of biological and non-biological intelligence.
Okay. You said, and I think it was in Age of Spiritual Machines, that at some point you're going to walk into your room, your computer will pass your intelligence, or all the collective intelligence on the planet, by 2027?
Well, 2029, a machine will be able to pass what's called the Turing test, meaning it's indistinguishable from human intelligence.
Okay, so
we won't be able to tell the difference.
All right. At what point? This was frightening. Where you said that you'll actually be able to. You'll go to turn off your computer, and it will say, "No, I'm lonely."
Well, our computers aren't going to be these distinct rectangular devices we carry around. We're going to merge with them. If I were to say that someday we'll have blood cell-sized devices in our bloodstream keeping us healthy, you'd say that sounds very futuristic, but there's already 50 experiments of doing that today with the first generation of devices in animals. So this is already starting, and these devices will get more and more intelligent. If you go out to 2029, our computers are not going to be these rectangular devices we put in our pocket. They're going to be inside our bodies and brains, and we're going to be a hybrid of biological and non-biological intelligence. It's going to keep us healthy, it's going to go inside our brains, and it's going to extend our intelligence.
So does that...
And that non-biological part of our intelligence, to that we can download knowledge and skills, just like we download knowledge and skills to our personal computers today.
Do you at any time worry about, I mean, it's, in some ways, I'm trying to remember Brave New World enough, in some ways you're entering a place to where, could you be manipulated by this? Could somebody say, oh, I'm turning you off, click, and turn you off?
Well, we already do a lot of intimate things with our computers, and they're inside our clothing, and so privacy and control of our software is already a big issue. You don't want somebody looking at everything you're doing and controlling what you do on your personal computer. And there are people walking around, like Parkinson's patients, who have computers in their brains, and they can actually download new software to the computer inside their brain from outside their head. That's today. So these are already issues, but we do manage these issues. I mean, privacy and control of software is important, but nobody has said that this issue is so important, let's get rid of the internet because of the problem with software.
Yeah, but there's a difference between, I mean, it's physically in me. You know, I'd hate to have somebody be able to have control of what's physically in me and just say, oh yeah, you know, I don't really agree with you, click, and turn you off. I mean, you write,
there are, I mean, technology has always been a double-edged sword.
Right.
Ever since we had fire and stone tools.
Because you wrote, because I think some of the stuff that you write is not only amazing in its technology, but it's not just the science, it's the philosophy that has to go with it. And that's what scares me, is philosophy's not growing as fast as technology is. And when you say, you know, there's going to be an attorney that will have to represent a machine and say, is it real or is it not? Is it life? Is it not? Are we ready for that kind of technology?
We're not going to make a leap from today to 2029 or 2045 in one big leap. I mean, we're going to get there hundreds of steps from now, one step at a time. And by the time we get there, we kind of get used to very radical changes. I mean, look at today. And describe that to people 50 years ago, it would seem very daunting. Yet we accept it. The fact that you can take a device out of your pocket and with a few keystrokes access all of human knowledge, it seems incredible, but we take it for granted.
How realistic are some of the things that you just talked about, with so much more? How realistic are the things that we'll talk about tonight? I mean, because I about with so much more. How realistic are the things that we'll talk about tonight? I mean, because I was promised the flying car, damn it, and I want the flying car, and they still haven't done that. How realistic is this stuff?
Well, my predictions have to do with information technology, computation, communications, the fact that we can now treat our biology as information processes. We have this outdated software running in our bodies. And those types of processes track very accurately in this exponential fashion. So there have been a lot of predictions that have nothing to do with information technology, many of which have been inaccurate. I've been making predictions for 30 years, which have really tracked quite accurately, like the emergence of the World Wide Web, the fact that a computer took the World Chess Championship in 1997.
I mean, you do have
the needs of the Soviet Union from decentralized electronic communication. I mean, these things have been predictable because computation, communication follows these very accurate, very predictable progressions.
Okay, more here in just a second, including the day that Ray Kurzweil decided he was an inventor. He declared, I believe he was 5 at the time, I was eating glue. We'll be back in just a minute. Back with inventor and futurologist Ray Kurzweil. 5 years old, he knew he wanted to be an inventor. At 12, you found your way to a computer. Was it your grandfather that was actually working with original Leonardo da Vinci manuscripts?